Hi everyone, and welcome to my interpretation of RPG A Day 2021, wherein I talk or give a few thoughts about a prompt word on this calendar that we have to use, developed by the people who, for the 8th year, have done this project. Originally I intended it to be like one take, but things are malleable. I've added recaps, I've added callbacks, so here we go.
Hey Carl, Jason here. Yeah, Pathfinder game would be cool too. I'd be down for your Agents of Edgewatch or the other one. I think adding Pathfinder to the list is a great idea. As far as your solo play, I hope it went well. I did not listen because I don't want to spoil that adventure in case I run it for myself. Solo. Play with myself. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it in case I play with myself. So, there you go. Anyhow, I will look forward to your next episode. Take care.
Hey Jason, I know you've said it time and time again that you're a social gamer, and I think you even commented on BJ's The Arcane Alienist that you'd rather not do solo, but would rather play with other people, riff off other people. But I thought it was a fun exercise for me. I really enjoyed the solo play of Alone Against the Flames. I've done Alone Against the Wendigo, which didn't end so well, like I've shared. But Alone Against the Flames was pretty good. It was, got my adrenaline pumping. I was really starting to get invested in Jim Otto, my big burly private investigator in the 1920s, and he survived the weird festival at that weird town, which was pretty cool. So I might have to see if I can take him through. And I think I have another Alone Against product that I could take him through, or maybe I could make up my own thing, right? That could be fun. But thank you for the call. I do recommend it. And hey, honestly, it's not if you've read H.P. Lovecraft's The Festival, the game is not, you can listen to it, and the game, if you wanted to play Alone Against the Flames yourself, would not be spoiled for you. Just saying. The Festival is a very well-read H.P. Lovecraft story, if you haven't read it. So I would go read it, and then you won't have to play. Hey everyone, I'm just going to do a quick recap of the game I ran earlier today, this afternoon. It's at East Texas University, and I have 3 really cool players who I would say are my friends. One of them is my beer buddies. One of them I should have visited a while ago because he lives nearby in Austin, but COVID, damn it. So I will come and visit him at some point in the near future as things ease out. And one of them, if I ever visit England, I will be sure and stop by and have a beer with him, a pint with him, and that's Shay Webster. So Jason Connerly, Nerds RPG Variety Cast, Arlen Walker, live from Pelham's Wasteland, and Shay Webster of Roleplay Rescue are the players in this game. I have fun in this game. It's a bit more lighthearted. It's Savage Worlds, East Texas University. These guys are really good players, and truth be told, they make me a little nervous because I feel like they're all-stars and one of them is famous. So, I don't know, is he definitely more famous than me in gaming circles. Probably not as notorious as me in scientific circles. I don't think I'm notorious, though. Maybe outspoken. Any case, East Texas University, the last time we played, they had thwarted a ritual to burn all these freshman students to a crisp in the basketball arena called the Roost. So these guys have, since then, the Roost has been closed because someone really sabotaged the hell out of the fire extinguisher system and caused a lot of electrical damage. It could have been worse, right? There could have been fire damage. They wanted to repaint. Even though they washed off all the graffiti, they wanted to give a good repaint of all that too. So there's work crews in there, but the place has been closed for a couple weeks. During these couple weeks, though, or a few weeks, time is vague, but maybe they're approaching midterms, so they've been busy with the with classes and all that kind of stuff. somehow Glenn Mack hasn't talked to them for some strange reason, even though he said he was going to be their mentor. They've run into Jackson Green a couple times, but more importantly, they've been having strange nightmares where they're being chased by somebody, and Thelma, who's played by Shea Webster, has had even more vivid dreams where they're chased by somebody that they know that betrayed them and then is burnt to a crisp at the end. And then when she wakes up, that brand on her arm that she picked up the last time is throbbing. Eventually, though, they run into Jackson Green, and he's got, hey guys, you want to do a ghost hunt? We've heard a lot of reports from the workers who are at the roost who are trying to repair all this damage that they see ghosts. So you guys want to go? So they're like, okay. He runs into Thelma and Jack in the quad, and then they email D-Day, and D-Day brings Bluto, much to the chagrin of Thelma, and they all go down to the science building and hang out for a while. And Jackson Green gives them some apparatus that he says will detect ghostly anomalies with scientific babble, but they all are like, I have them make rolls, and they're just it's just a metal detector, a parabolic microphone, and a Geiger counter. I don't know. They're very skeptical. Bluto causes some problems, uses Jackson's pro card to get some pizza. They have pizza and beer. Jackson pulls out this Ouija board, but it's not like the Parker Ouija board that you buy. It looks pretty fancy. It has some Arabic-looking script, but that's more jagged. And it says the stone that moves is like a blackish, purplish gem that actually Jackson keeps locked up. In it, he has a key around his neck and it's locked up. And he tries to perform some sort of ritual, but the players don't buy it. It doesn't work. And then Jackson becomes sad about it and pulls out a flask of whiskey and starts drinking it. Excuse me. So eventually it becomes evening time and they go to the roost. Jack has to overcome his fear because he has a phobia of this place, and Thelma helps him to pull him through to get a grip. But when they go in, even though the doors are unlocked because of all the work crews going in, they make some noise and get the attention of some of the security guards that are walking the perimeter. They quickly, though, take action and go hide in the main arena area. The guards pass them by, but then they see something strange, or at least Thelma thinks she sees Nina the ghost. Oh, as an aside, while they were waiting to go ghost hunting, they convinced Jackson to look up go on the web and use his account to get into student records and old newspaper clips and all that kind of stuff. They actually looked over his shoulder and figured out his password too. That might come into play. Who knows? So they do learn about Nina. They get her last name. They see that she disappeared mysteriously. It was never really solved. It was very vague. They find out who her boyfriend was, and that person also disappeared. And as it turns out, it was almost 75 years ago in 1947 from the present. It's like 2021. So in 2022 in the spring, it would be 25 years. Interesting. That seems to be an important number to Thelma, but she can't quite figure out why. Anyway, they're back in the roost. Thelma thinks she sees Nina, and then I guess she's psychically sensitive, but then all the players... Oh, then Bluto, though, runs to the center for some reason of the arena, and then he collapses and goes into some sort of seizure. The ghost appears and gives him some sort of vision that, yes, she was being chased down a hall, was caught, pled for mercy, and was burned. Oh, but before she was caught, she put something into a trophy case, into a clamshell, and then into a trophy case, and then she burst into flames. And some of the characters are more affected than others by this, like fatigued or a little afeared, but they keep going. They go down to the trophy case. They find the item, and it looks like some sort of crucifix, but the crucifix is odd. There's some anomalies on it. For example, it has a sharp point, and instead of and it's not quite a crucifix with the Christ on it, but instead it has where the Christ halo might be like some sort of Aztec sun god symbol. Before they can take any action, however, they feel like they're suddenly transported to a jungle in South or Central America. They hear that they feel like they're being pursued by something, maybe the cough of a jaguar. They hear that the security guard, though, has caught up to them, and he freaks out because he too is transported to this jungle. And yeah, Jack calls him over, but before he can do anything else, the jaguar has a strange aspect to it, leaps from the jungle and tears the security guard apart. Well, the next person that acts is Thelma, and she uses her latent psychic ability and on a hunch calls power that courses through into this item, which I think another cool thing that happened is when they were examining the item before they were transported, Jack took a look at it, and Thelma realized it was like Aztec, like the iconography on it. But Jack's like, I've studied this thing. He rolled like a super duper, success. So he studied this thing. He knew what it was called. He kind of knew the history of it. He probably wrote a report about it or something. But so they realized that this Aztec, it was an Aztec spear, or it was on the tip. It was a tip of an Aztec spear, and it was co-opted by the conquistadors for their, and changed into a Christian artifact. Anyway, Thelma taps into it somehow, gets lucky on the roll, it works. She runs up to the jaguar and touches it, and they're transported back to the roost. The only complication, though, is there's this dead body sprawled on the floor. So they quickly get out of there. Bluto and Jackson were both asleep. They drag them out, get back to the basement, leave Jackson and Bluto there, head to the student center, which is probably open all 24 hours. But strangely, this fog rolls in. They want to study this. Now they want to study this artifact that they found. Definitely seems to have some sort of power, and Thelma can tap into it, which is kind of cool. So it was a good session, shorter sessions, but we try to get a lot done, and I feel we did. It was kind of neat. I thought the jaguar creature would be harder, but good thinking by the crew, and they are saved from their strange experience and survive to do their midterms. Talk to you soon. That's my recap of ETU. We're doing Degrees of Horror, but I switched things around just in case, so not quite spoilerish. Peace out. Every other Saturday morning, I play Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea. It's called The Reavers of Tulay. It's been a long-going campaign run by Kevin Madison of the Dungeon Musings Media Empire. You can watch it on YouTube and look at our antics, the various antics and trouble we've gotten ourselves into. So this particular game that we played, I play a Amazonian warlock named Iphigenia Acantodoros. She's pretty damn hoss, and shines, especially when she's the only martial combatant in the group. Sometimes she's been overshadowed by others, but that's okay. I know she's badass, and we all know she's badass. She's helped the groups escape from very harrowing situations. So we are continuing this campaign. Our current adventure is to go to this tower and retake it, stop it from being desecrated. There's a lot of anthropomorphic humanoids that we've been interacting with in this particular phase of the campaign. We've met ape men, we've met toad men and man toads and pterodactyl men. So yeah, the current fight we've gotten ourselves into is between the Toad Skippers, who are Toad Men, and the terrible... No, wait, the other way around. Are they Man Toads or Toad Men? The Toad Skippers are more like humans with amphibian features, while the others, their enemies, the terrible Toad Men, are toads that walk upright, much like akin to bullywugs that you might see in another game like AD&D. This is Ash is based on AD&D, right? So we're underneath this, what we think is this temple structure, and we push our way forward. We had encountered lots of frogs and killed lots of frogs, including a giant elder frog that was worshipped as a deity that actually killed one of the characters in two sessions earlier. This player has made a new character who we rescued the last time, and we're press on. So we press on. Kevin uses great use of dynamic lighting in the virtual tabletop game that we run this on. The platform is Roll20, and I can see in the dark because of a magic item, but others can't. But it's kind of neat how the new dynamic lighting, I can see what I see, and I can see like a little halo what they can see. So I got to remember that sometimes. But I press on ahead to explore. I see more Toadmen coming. I run back to warn the others, and as they pass by, I say, I take action. I can't let these guys get behind us, so I attack them. I get surprised. I close with them, and I think we slaughtered like 8 terrible Toadmen, and it was great that we had some more magic support in the form of one of the players who had not been there for a while. He cast sleep on some of the Toadmen that were throwing javelins at us, and we dispatched them. They were carrying some sort of treasure offering, and we got a lot of treasure, which is kind of cool. We pressed on, and we found ourselves, I guess we were under the temple, in the caverns under the temple, and now we found ourselves in the temple itself, and we started making our way up. And I think that's pretty neat. So like you can imagine this temple that kind of spirals up and around this ancient sort of Mesoamerican style temple, and we're making our way up. We do pretty good. We found this without trouble. We found a set of stairs going up to a platform 100 feet above us. We had debated whether we could use some gaseous form potions or fly potions, but I think we decided we're just going to do this on foot, the old way, the non-magic-y way, and if we get in trouble, then we can use these potions to get out or cause problems. Because I had an idea that we could drink the gaseous form potions, kind of drift up as a little cloud, hang out for a while, find our idea is to cut off the head of the frog, and hopefully this whole desecration of the temple will fall apart. I don't know. We'll see what's at the top. Probably some powerful terrible toad man with spell casting crazy, or probably maybe a powerful magic item. So we make our way into this staircase. We find like the spiral stair, although it's more like a blocky. But the staircase, there's nothing in the center, no railing. But we make our way up, and then we encounter some more Toadmen, and we take some out. But it looks like they've warned the complex as best we could. We try to take out runners, but they're too fast or didn't really work. But we're in the middle of a combat, and Iphigenia used her PDW to good effect to take out some of the runners as best she could. But I don't know, we're in trouble. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully we'll get some reinforcements next time as we take on the Temple of the Terrible Toadmen. So the other game I played, and it was for a charity session for SOS Children's Villages that Kevin Madison sponsors or doesn't. That's his charity that he helps get funds for through the play and his Dungeon Musings network. It's a really good charity that helps orphans become educated. around the world. So I think I will put a link in the show notes because it is a really good charity, and he's raised a lot of money through his platform for this charity, especially this year. So it's growing and growing. It's pretty cool. And so we played this game that the people who donated chose from a list of different games that Kevin proposed he could run, and the donors chose City of Mists. So Kevin ran us an adventure called Voodoo Done It, and we had 3 players. I played Tlaloc, who is the god of thunder and lightning, and he has powers where he can manipulate thunder and lightning, like shoot lightning. He can turn into water, but he is also kind of a small-time fixer in a bad part of town. So the group meets, and he's here to help this is like our opening scene. He's here to help one particular person who is a monster hunter named Baku, and owns a dojo in this part of town. And we hunt down this man who's like the Pied Piper. We feel he's been kidnapping children, and another player has joined us, sort of a young woman named Lily Chow, who has like a mystical avatar / friend, imaginary friend named Iron Hans. So we get to the Pied Piper. I mess up a little bit, and I try to sneak up, but it doesn't quite work. So the Pied Piper is forewarned, but Baku gets there, smacks him. He has this pipe where he's trying to charm Baku or influence us. So I knock it out of his hands, and then Lily Chow has Iron Hans smack him, and she smashes the Pied Piper flat. It's pretty quick. I was surprised at how quickly these fights went in the City of Mists, but it turns out he was using the pipe to not just try to charm or influence, slow down Baku, who was beating him up, but also to call in all these rats. But it turned out the rats were not rats, but they were the children he had kidnapped. So we were able to take him, so we live in Uptown, which is not so nice anymore. It's also called the Sod. And we take them to our local bar, who I know the proprietor. Her name is Erica, and this is called The Hole. So we take the kids to The Hole, and it's a bar and grill that has really good food, surprisingly. It has crazy, and it's very much, we decided that Uptown was like an ethnic melting pot, and there's a lot of good fusion type of food. You can get anything at this place, from burgers and fried hot dogs to some good ramen or Thai noodles. So when we were here, this strange apparition Baku smells the scent of rum and cigars, and follows it, and it turns out to be this apparition or avatar of Baron Samedi, and he needs our help. He needs the body back of his avatar rift, and in exchange, he will give us back the spirit of one of Baku's students who has been brutally killed. We do some investigation, and we discover that there is this party at a cemetery that was sponsored by the caretaker of the graveyard, who is apparently new into town, had a lot of teenagers and the like young adults come to the party, and they were attacked by men jumping out of a hearse with machine guns, who were described as very hairy and bulky. We put things together, and we determined that there is some sort of turf war going on between Baron Samedi, who is new to the scene. Again, I feel like this game, I feel like this game reminded me a lot of American Gods. So Baron Samedi is new to the scene. His portfolio includes being the god of death for, a younger crowd or a younger philosophy, religion, while in contrast, we discovered that we think it was Hades. The three men jumping out with the machine guns were an aspect of Cerberus. We're trying to curtail that influence. Hades being an older aspect of a god of death from Greek mythology, right? So we tracked down the location. I really enjoyed the mechanic of investigation that we did, where we learned how, who killed Baku's student, what they were all about, and eventually where they were. So Baku, we after we gathered all the information, clearly, since it was like an attack, like a shooting, the police were about as well. So my character actually got the police to try to track these people. So in combination with the police tracking these people and Baku and the rest of us going to the graveyard and sniffing him out, we locate the lair of Hades and Cerberus, or the rifts of them, and attack them. Since I can control weather and it's always raining in the City of Mist, I make the weather even more powerful, and then I blow open I think the way it went is Iron Hans knocks aside, tears open a hole in this building. It's a big giant iron avatar, and I blast the men who are Cerberus. I love the way Kevin described the rift of Cerberus. These like three like identical twins, acting almost unanimously in concert. They were dressed in jumpsuits that were brownish with a darker brown, middle. It's pretty cool, I thought. Very hairy. So I blasted open. Lily Chow has Iron Hans animate some gargoyles to more or less take care of Cerberus, and Baku rushes in and smacks the avatar, I presume of Hades, and smacks them good, so that suddenly we just have dogs in the in this parlor / garage. We find the body of the rift of Baron Samedi. He has these Greek coins on his eyes, and we remove them. Baron Samedi is able to manifest again in that body, and then we go back to Baku's dojo, and Baron Samedi stays good with his word, though he takes the Greek coins, but revives the student of Baku. I apologize for the shark in the background. It's coming for me. But it was a really fun session. I enjoyed my introduction into City of Mists, and I thought it was a good system. In the future, I know that I could probably, if I know who my character is ahead of time, or I make my own character. I think that's something one of the players who is more experienced in City of Mist commented on. If you make your own character, then you know what the tags are. You can better describe what they're going to do. Getting pre-gen characters, you kind of have to learn on the fly what their capabilities might be and how to describe your actions to include tags or put tags onto what they can do. I think that could be faster in the future as players become more experienced. It'd be really cool to explore a mid-level long-term campaign with this mechanic as well, because you can sort of change your mythos and logos depending. There are consequences both for and pro and con with that, but it looks like a really cool and dynamic system and adaptation of the Powered by the Apocalypse base mechanic. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, like I will share later, that maybe there'll be a game of that genre in the future in the GMologist verse. Right, well, that's City of Mists recap. So I played 2 other games so far this weekend, and I'm going to play another one later today. So that brings my total of games starting from Wednesday to Sunday to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games using 5 different systems. So why do I do that? I'm really echoing the sentiments of BJ from the Arcane Alienist, in that, it's good to play different systems and to compare and contrast them as you play it in your head. It's really a fun thing to do. I enjoy different systems, and I think some systems work best depending on the genre. And it's always fun to try a new system. So let's compare and contrast these. You've already listened to the recaps ahead of time, and maybe have listened to recaps in previous episodes. So let's start from Wednesday, and what are the cool things or not about the system. So Wednesday, I ran Starfinder. It's a variation of Pathfinder, which is a variation of D&D 3.5. So everything is well codified. It has I would say a pretty dynamic but defined way and method of combat, right? All the players roll individual initiative. They take their move and do their action. There's some nuances, of course, there. And I think something that 3.5 has and is introduced, at least in the combat situation, are conditions. So that could be a hindrance to some, because there are a lot of conditions to learn. But honestly, since we played 3.5 for so long, and Pathfinder and then Starfinder having run a whole adventure path, it kind of comes back to you, which I think is good. If you play a system a lot, it becomes second nature. So we really got into the flow of it relatively quickly for Starfinder, and that does kind of scratch that kind of that 3.5 itch, because 3.5 we played for so long and so many games that it's kind of ingrained into myself and some of my players that we like that individual initiative, strongly defined parameters, not just combat, but also for non-combat activities like skills. And what I think is cool about how Paizo has done things in Pathfinder and Starfinder is that they usually develop a subsystem for the particular theme that they're trying to get at in their long-term game, in their adventure path. It's conducive to long-term play, right? This whole type of system. And in this particular game, Starfinder, they've introduced the charter building, settlement building, which they sort of introduced way back in Kingmaker and for Pathfinder, which apparently is going to be come out with a Pathfinder 2 version or /5e version relatively soon. Hopefully in this fall here. It's been delayed, like everything else in our hobby. So we really enjoy the system. We like the subsystems. They're easily plugged in. So the system 3.5 Pathfinder, Starfinder is very modular, and I think we really enjoy it. That's a plus for the system. So in comparison, I would say Savage Worlds, which I played Thursday night and Friday during the day. You've heard the Deadlands. You just heard the ETU recap. It is also pretty modular. They have very streamlined, straightforward combat. I would say it's more cinematic, and it's supposed to be fast, furious fun, which it purports to be, and works really well for that. This is highlighted by some of the mechanics in the game. So this system, right, you draw cards, like you would draw cards rapidly at the table as if you were in a saloon in a old timey West scene for actions to see who goes first. You have this sort of aces on the dice where if you roll a dice and it gets the highest number on that dice, you re-roll that dice so the dice explode, and that leads to some swinginess that people would say, but it also leads to some very heroic deeds. Or when you think you're sunk, your cause is sunk, suddenly you get that super raise on the dice, or the extra damage on the dice, and you win the day or escape, as they did in the Deadlands game. And in the ETU game, I think despite not having the right skill, or just testing out and not understanding this artifact, the players triumphed because there was a raise on the dice, and they got out of there alive from the Jaguar Demon. So it does lend itself to heroicness, and it's a very fun system. I think what is also cool about Savage World as a system, it's definitely easy to introduce to new players. I've found when I was introduced to it, I was kind of poo-pooing it. I didn't like the idea of the multiple dice for skills. That's weird. The cards for initiative, that's stranger. But it seems like on paper it's odd, but when you play it, it works out really well. And I think that's a strong strength of the system, and why it leads itself to this universality, right? I ran two different genres: Deadlands, which is old Weird West, or Wild West Weird, WWW, and then ETU, which is like Scooby-Doo meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So different genres that both work with this heroic system, and it's again a fun system to run. It works really well at the table. It's easy to pick up for my new friends who I play on my Sunday dinner group Deadlands game. These are old friends, but they're new to role playing, and they picked it up pretty well. So even something as complex as running a hex slinger in Deadlands, which is a gunslinger that can cast spells. So one of the new players has picked that up and is a huckster, right? So they can play cards with the devil and Manitous in their mind. They can cast spells from runes on their gun and have the abilities of a gunslinger. So she's picked up very quickly how to do the huckster stuff, how to and has enjoyed it immensely. How to do the duelist stuff, and how to cast spells, right? So it's pretty complex, but works in your head. It's pretty complex, but works quickly and fast with the Savage Worlds game. Now on Saturday morning, you heard that I played Astonishing Swordsmen and Sorcerers of Hyperborea, which would be cut down to Hyperborea in a new branding based on the 3rd edition. And that game is also one of these games that played AD&D for so long that a lot of us know this game, almost by rote and by heart. And I think it works really well procedurally. And we got into it. There's really not much to say about D&D. The difference between that and like the Pathfinder is that it's group initiative. What I like about this system, and why I would use this system in place of AD&D, it cleans up a lot of the things in AD&D that honestly we rarely used. All that weapon, they have weapon class, but there's not like this addition or subtraction of weapon speed, which people barely used. I really like the declaration of action, which I believe is rules as written in these older games in BX and AD&D, but no one does it, or in my experience, players balk at it for whatever reason, but it works great in the Ash two-phase system. I'm sorry, actually, that they're getting rid of the two-phase system. I like it. It works really well. Declare your actions. You do your phase in order, which I think is a fantastic way to make combat quicker and slicker with the melee missile magic move direction. And then you flip, right? It's not like your side goes, they side go, as in a war game. It's you do your melee, the enemy group does their melee, etc., which I like a lot, and I think leads a lot of ebb and flow into the combat, which could really just be, well, I attack, roll a dice, I attack, roll a dice, but it doesn't. It kind of leads to some, I would say, higher order thinking, where you think tactically, look at the board. If you're using a map, or in your head, okay, so what do I need to do here to stop that mage from casting the spell, get into position, to shoot my bow and arrow, or in the case of Hyperborea, my laser carbine, because I have a PDW, my character does. But I like it. It's very pulpy in feel, is Hyperborea, and the old school, the revised old school mechanic that we learned way back in AD&D works really well. So I like that. I do like that system a lot, and I would definitely enjoy running a longer term Hyperborea campaign. I had a Hyperborea campaign that I felt had great promise, but I don't know, something happened along the way where it kind of fell through. And I have that, it's kind of frozen in time, right? I would love to run this sort of battle for the city that I thought of in my head as an addition, or because of the actions of the players, I felt logically could happen. But there's been no interest, so I guess we'll move on. And I have, like I described, a whole list of different games I'd like to run, and we just need people to have an interest and have the right time and commit and be able to commit. Right? I agree with Joe Richter. He said something in his podcast, in Hindsight List, that he prefers, or was that a response? I think that was a response to me. Anyway, Joe Richter was quoted as saying, I prefer long-term games. I want a long-term campaign, or at least a medium campaign, right? And see how it plays out. And I do too. I like to run something long-term. I like to plan ahead. I like conventions, and I'll do the occasional one-shot, and I can do one-shots if I want to test something out. But I like systems that are conducive to long-term play, like 3.5 Pathfinder Starfinder, and like Hyperborea, AD&D, OSE, BX, right? Those types of games. I lump those into a very similar system and category. Savage Worlds, I think, is good for like a short. You could play multiple. I feel because of the advancement in that system, it's not conducive to a super long campaign, but more of like a mini campaign arc, where you could have about 20 sessions, and you'd be good at the end in a conclusion. So it's different. There's a different feel. That system, you can get in advance every adventure or every session, depending on how you it seems to me like the adventures in a game like Savage Worlds, in contrast to an ongoing campaign in a D&D style system, right? You want to wrap up as if you do like a TV episode, the story in one take, in one session, as opposed to, right, in a Hyperborea game, we can just cut even in the middle of combat like we did, and then pick it up the next time. So it's a different feel even to the system and how temporally it acts and works. So I would say the game I'm playing today, Warhammer Fantasy, is more akin to the D&D type fantasy game A lot of things, especially in second edition, are more codified, less narrative. Fourth edition, it has some. I feel like it adds some things to help with the combat. It definitely, on the character side of things, makes things easier to advance as compared to second edition. But they're both very much a skill-based percentile dice game, where it's not level advancement. I mean, you advance in your career, but it's not level advancement. It's percentile dice advancement. But still works with that genre, especially that is genre of grimdark, right? I think that I don't know. There's something about the percentile dice system that lends itself to. Maybe it's just because of how long we've had the Call of Cthulhu game and the BRP mechanic with percentile dice. That percentile dice, yes or no, sort of linear success. But unlike the D20 system, I know it's just different. It's definitely a different feel. But the fourth edition of Warhammer, which I play every other week, I probably have to go into this more, maybe in another podcast, the compare and contrast second versus fourth. That might be worthwhile, but suffices to say that I like the fourth edition and what they've done, especially to combat, that makes it more interesting and less. There's some strange things in 2E that you have to kind of remember that make combat challenging to remember and challenging for a new player into the system. But I guess you pick it up. Maybe you could have played it more back in the day, but fourth edition was easier for new players, again in my experience, to get on the way things work. They've simplified the action economy, for example, so that you just have your move and your action, and the actions have different values and how many you can do and all that. But it's not heavily. There's not a lot of heavily defined. There's less terminology, I guess, and while things are defined, there's not as many, if that makes sense. So I think it's a streamlined version of 2E that captures that grimdark feel, but again is a little easier to run. Again, and also this is, in my opinion, based on the experiences I've had with both 2E and 4E. I did play actually a whole campaign, the Thousand Thrones, and using the 3E version, but that's a different animal altogether, using board game style fiddly bits. I should get into all of those one of these days. In any case, the game I played yesterday afternoon for a charity session that Kevin Madison of the Dungeon Musings Media Empire set up was very different from the other games that I've talked about. So that system, the game is City of Mists. It's if you can imagine, the way I conceive it is like American Gods in a kind of a noir city, right? All of us are riffs or aspects of some sort of deity or concept, much like, to me, American Gods by Neil Gaiman. And it's a superhero game, and it's the base of City of Mist is powered by the apocalypse. So what I thought was very cool, so you have this character concept. They're created by these two ideas of mythos and logos. So what's in the mythical from your rift personality to how you exist in the real world, the logos, and you have all these tags on different things you can do. So what I thought was it's more highly narrative, less dice to worry about. You only really roll a 2d6, and then you try to apply your different tags to the actions that you describe, and then you and the GM, the MC, Master of Ceremonies come together and decide what tags are appropriate for the action that you're going to do. You roll your dice, and then you don't succeed on 6 or less. 7 to 9, you succeed with a fun complication the GM can add or not. And then 10 or higher, you succeed with some flourish. So it's a very simple system. I played some Powered by the Apocalypse. I really enjoyed Monsters of the Week when we ran, and I think City of Mist really, really works, and it inspires me to really think strongly about an American Gods type of game. Maybe not just confined to the City of Mists, but to like using that American Gods-ish verse. I guess that means I need to watch a second season of American Gods on Stars, but I've read the book, which to me is a very good book. I highly recommend it. So yeah, that could be coming to a GMologist presents near you, right? So and it's a different style of game. It is extremely easy to pick up. The only comment I would have is that it can be bogged down if the players don't have a good knack for quick decision making, because then you can have the sort of analysis paralysis happen when you look at all the different tags and what are you going to do. But I think what was great is what Kevin did is he said, okay, describe what you're going to do, and then he, as the MC, helps you figure out what different tags to use. And a good GM, a good MC can help the players do that. A little more front work front end work based for the GM, but the GM doesn't even really roll dice in this game, so that is kind of neat. Is that the GM really is the master of ceremonies in this type of game, just directing the characters to come to the decisions for their actions. So it was a really fun game. I hope you enjoyed the recap. But again, it's a different system, and I will say again as I conclude this RPG a Day 2021 episode of System on August 29th that BJ's right. You got to run a lot of different games. You really want to learn a lot of different games. It kind of helps your perspective, and it definitely helps as a GM. I never claim I'm the best GM, even though I use the term GMologist. That's sort of the tag that other my players have given me, which is humbling. And I really like to run a lot of games. Like, what can I say? I don't think you need one system to play every single game, and some systems work better than others for what you want to accomplish. But it's healthy to run different systems and play different systems as a player and run different systems as a GM. Well, I've rambled a lot, and I know there's more content. Maybe there's more content in this podcast. So I think I'll sign off here, at least for the system.